Hey friends, time for a funny book about dinosaurs. This is called How Big Were the Dinosaurs? And it's a funny book that shows us how big a dinosaur would be if they were living on Earth right now. So it's showing us how a dinosaur would look if they really lived on Earth right now. But remember, they're extinct. They're all dead and they're not coming back. So let's read How Big Were the Dinosaurs? Look. See the kids sliding down this long-necked dinosaur's neck? This is going to be a funny book. All right, here we go. It's hard to imagine how big some of the dinosaurs really were. Some dinosaur footprints that have been found are so big that you and a couple of your friends could stand inside one of them. So you could fit inside the dinosaur's footprint. But just how big were the dinosaurs? Tyrannosaurus Rex was so big, some of its teeth were as big as your toothbrush, more than 7 inches long. I wonder how many tubes of toothpaste it would take to brush this monster's teeth. Triceratops was so big, its head was bigger than your front door. Even though this plant eater was one of the most peaceful dinosaurs, I don't think your mother would want it inside your house. Funny pictures in this book right here. I don't even think Triceratops would fit inside your house. Ooh, this is a tough one to say. Shantungosaurus was so big, it was about 50 ducks long. See, it's the same size as 50 ducks. Oh my goodness. It was one of the biggest duck-billed dinosaurs ever found. They call it a duck-billed dinosaur because, look, his mouth is like a duck's, kind of the same type of mouth. I bet it could make the loudest quack ever. Stegosaurus was so big, the plates on its back were larger than a school crossing sign. With all of these protective plates, Stegosaurus would be the perfect crossing guard. He would definitely stop the cars from passing in the street so all the kids could cross. Guess it comes in handy to be that big sometimes. Deinonychus was so big, its arms and hands together were 9 feet long. Since that was all scientists ever found of this dinosaur, I wonder how much bigger the rest of it was. Wouldn't it be nice to have an extra pair of helping hands that size around your house? Oh my gosh. That might help when Luke Langoni and Reese Langoni make a big mess. Deinonychus could come and help with his giant arms and clean everything up at once. Hypsilosaurus was so big, its eggs were the size of a hen. Even though this barn-sized plant eater was smaller than many other dinosaurs, its eggs were the biggest dinosaur eggs ever found. Do you think eggs that big would fit in an egg basket? Oh my goodness. That is one big egg right there. Supersaurus, yes, Supersaurus, was so big, it was longer than a supermarket aisle. I bet this gigantic plant eater would have no trouble finding the vegetable section. Get it? Because he's an herbivore, a plant eater. How about calling this dinosaur Supermarketsaurus? So if you brought Supersaurus into the supermarket, it would take up the whole aisle of the supermarket. Oh my gosh, look at this one. Ankylosaurus was so big, it was bigger than a school bus. This sturdy plant eater was covered in armor and weighed more than 5 tons. Wouldn't you feel safe going to school on an enormous dinosaur bus? Oh my gosh, that would be so silly. Allosaurus was so big, it was bigger than a bulldozer. This meat eater's jaws were hinged, so it was able to swallow large chunks of meat. Whenever I see the powerful jaws of an earth-eating machine, I think of Allosaurus. Apatosaurus was so big when it was only 1 month old, so a baby Apatosaurus. It was already bigger than a baby's crib. So this is a baby Apatosaurus and it's already that big. I bet it wasn't easy to babysit a 6-foot-long, 75-pound baby Apatosaurus. Parasaurolophus was so big, the hollow tube at the top of its head was longer than a trombone. Some scientists think it blew air through this tube to make a horn-like sound. I wonder how it would have sounded in the school concert. Maybe he could have played his head horn in the school band. We read about that, remember? Parasaurolophus or Hadrosaurus, what we saw in the other book, could make a sound through that horn on their head to warn their friends that someone dangerous was nearby, like a T-Rex. Diplodocus was so big, it was about as long as a basketball court. One of the longest dinosaurs ever found, it could have been nicknamed Stretch Lizard. Look, he could have scored on both baskets at the same time with its head and its tail. I bet Stretch would have been able to slam dunk its head and tail at the same time. Baryonyx was so big, its thumb claws were as big as this book. Its nickname was Heavy Claw. Do you think this very large dinosaur would like to thumb through this dinosaur book? I don't even think he'd be able to open it. His claws were so big. Omegasaurus was so big, its neck was longer than a school flagpole. No other dinosaur or any other animal that ever lived had a longer neck. So this guy had the longest neck of all. I think this is a dinosaur worth saluting because he can get his head all the way up to the tip top of the flagpole. Torvosaurus was so big, its toes were bigger than a man's shoes. Scientists named this large meat eater Savage Lizard because of the giant claws on its hands and feet. I bet you thought only grown-ups had big hands and feet. Look at the size of his hands and feet. Oh my goodness. Brachiosaurus was so big, it was taller than a giraffe, the tallest animal living today. A giraffe might need help from an elephant and a hippopotamus to reach as high as Brachiosaurus. So if a giraffe wanted to be as tall, he would have to stand on an elephant and a hippo, and then him. And then he'd be as tall as Brachiosaurus. Omegasaurus was so big, it was longer than a bowling alley lane. Scientists think it may have had a bony club at the tip of its tail. I'm sure it would be fun to go bowling with this dinosaur. Strike! Oh my gosh, look at that. He takes up the whole bowling lane. I bet he'd be good to have on your team. Therizinosaurus was so big, its fingernails were almost as big as you. Not much else is known about this big-fingered dinosaur. I wonder how long it would take to polish those huge fingernails. Might take a couple bottles of nail polish. Ultrasaurus was so big, its shoulder blade alone was bigger than a park bench. If just one Ultrasaurus bone was this big, imagine how huge the whole dinosaur would have been. So this is just the bone that comes right here in his shoulder. Oh my gosh. Huge. Seismosaurus was so big, it was almost twice as big and weighed almost twice as much as the Apatosaurus, better known as Thunder Lizard. The name Seismosaurus means Earth Shaker Lizard. Oh, wait, let me give you a better look. Holy cannoli! Oh my goodness. Seismosaurus was one long dino. Maybe one day someone will discover a dinosaur so big it will make Earthshaker Lizard look tiny. Now we can open it this way. Ready? Look at, here's Seismosaurus. Wait a minute. Look how many kids fit on him. Just on his tail. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun to ride on the tail of a Seismosaurus. Oh my gosh, the dinosaurs were so big. Here's all the dinosaurs we just learned about. That book was fun. It's kind of funny to picture dinosaurs living on Earth right now because of all the things we have now, like buildings and houses and roads and parks. When the dinosaurs were alive, there were none of those things. So they could just walk around and be big and walk around freely. But if they were alive today, they'd have to be careful. There's a lot of things around and they're very big. I hope you guys liked this book. How big were the dinosaurs? See you soon, friends.